Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Basic Education Board.
Dear students of Senior 1, once again we are here. In chemistry, we are looking still at unit number 8, which is air composition and pollution. So that is what we are looking at even in the previous lesson. You remember in lesson 1? So where we are looking at the determination of air composition, determination of oxygen composition in air, and we looked at the uses of the oxygen and other substances, other components in the air. So here again, we're coming to look at the causes of air pollution, and then we'll be able to look at even its effects, the effects of air pollution. As I said earlier, these terms are not new to you. They are terms that we always mention in every day from the primary up to today. And you have to look at them in Senior 2, look at them in Senior 3, Senior 4, until you go to other levels of learning. So there are some things when we talk about the air pollution, there are things that are with us. There are things that we do. We are the ones that do them. Then this is what we are looking at today in our lesson number 2. My dear students, please get ready as always. Make sure you have your notebook and pen. Write down the information that you may need at a later stage, or as we go along the lesson, you may need to recall something. So we'll start with the question, what is air pollution? What is air pollution? In your own words and your own understanding, what is air pollution? What do you understand? In just few seconds that I'm giving you, can you define what air pollution is? You remember in some time back, we had already talked about the water pollution and uses. So this time we are looking at the air pollution. Is it different from the water pollution? They are only similar because they use the word pollution. So the word pollution is the one that brings them together. So what does it mean? So when we talk about air pollution, this occurs when gases, dust particles, fumes, or in form of smoke, or odors, that is maybe smells, are introduced into atmosphere in a way that makes it harmful to humans, animals, and plants. So you see, we are all affected. It is where, when the gases, take note of that, when the gases, dust particles, the fumes in form of smoke, odors, those are smells, that are introduced into the atmosphere in a way that makes it harmful to humans, ourselves, you and me, including other animals and plants. So those animals can be terrestrial or even aquatic animals. They are affected by air pollution. So you introduce these all substances, the dust, the fumes, smokes, and smells, the particles, all of them, if they are introduced into the atmosphere, that is what we call pollution. So the unwanted substances introduced into the atmosphere that have harmful effects on humans, animals, and plants. That's what we call pollution. Air pollution results in the air being dirty. When we say dirty, that means either contaminated, unclean, and often toxic. So toxic, not only unclean, but toxic. That means can kill. That is what we call air pollution. So we have the major sources of air pollution. These are the major sources. We have stationary and area sources. So in the stationary and area sources, we have power plants, we have chemical manufacturing industries. Those are included under stationary and area sources. They are not moving, but they are in specific areas. Then we have the mobile sources. In the mobile sources, you have vehicles. You have recreational vehicles, either the vehicles that are used for sports and other general vehicles. You have boats, that is on water. You have planes, and you have trains. All these are mobile sources. I'm sure you have ever seen when in the stationary and area sources, where there is an industry, you'll see some smoke moving into the atmosphere. That smoke moving into the atmosphere. Do you know any area where the industry is located in your place? Can you just mention that area, and can you mention that industry in your place that produces that smoke? That smoke that goes into the atmosphere is the one that contaminates it. It is unwanted in the atmosphere, and therefore it constitutes air pollution. Mobile sources, you have seen when the vehicles are moving, especially the old vehicles. When they are moving, you'll see some smoke coming out of their exhaust pipes. So those exhaust fumes, when they get out as a result of the engine reactions with fossil fuels, when they get out of exhaust pipes, where do they go? They go into the atmosphere. You have seen some planes, the aircraft, some rockets producing the air, or rather smoke, I beg your pardon. As it is moving from one place to another, when it passes over in the sky, you see the smoke following it. That smoke remains in the atmosphere. It is unwanted. We don't want that one in the atmosphere because it constitutes the air pollution. Agricultural sources, you have the fertilizers, you have herbicides, you have pesticides. Animals produce manure that emits gases. Which gases are we talking about? We are talking about the methane gas, the biogas. That gas also goes into the atmosphere. When you are spraying the aerosol, when you are spraying these herbicides and fertilizers, some of it goes into the atmosphere. It remains in the atmosphere, and it constitutes air pollution. Any unwanted substance that goes into the atmosphere, unclean, toxic, constitutes to air pollution because it has they have harmful effects on humans, that is animals and plants. And we said animals, not only animals on land, but even the aquatic animals are also affected. Natural sources, they are sources which are natural. So we are just mentioning the general sources of air pollution. Sources which are natural. Erupting volcanoes. when they are erupting, they erupt with a lot of smoke and other substances that go into the atmosphere. When there are a lot of fires, when there is a lot of fire, recently in America, in a part of California, you have seen this on news. The fire, a lot of fires burning for almost months and months. There is a lot of smoke that is being generated. Sea spray, dust storms, pollen grains. The pollen grains, the plants themselves, even outside here, they have pollen grains that remain circulating in the atmosphere. And these pollen grains can also can be toxic because they are the causes of sometimes allergies, not always allergies. So you'll see when there is a lot of flowering, when the plants are flowering, you'll see some people either sneezing or doing so with that kind of stuff. Why? It is because of these pollen grains that get into the atmosphere and constitute the air pollution. So it contaminates the air, makes the air unclean, and even toxic. So these sources, as we have said, some are stationary, as we have seen. There are some which are stationary here. When we look at this one here, we have stationary sources where you have like factories, you have industries, you have power plants. You have the mobile ones, the moving. This is the vehicle is moving, so it is producing some smoke from the exhaust. Then we have natural sources. So these natural sources are from volcanic eruptions. You see here, there are volcanic eruptions that come out with a lot of smoke, and that smoke goes into the air. That is a lot of smoke that goes into the air. So all these can be divided into two forms, either primary pollutants or secondary pollutants. So I'll just give you the homework. What is the difference between the primary pollutants and secondary pollutants? I just want to give you this small homework. Go and find out the difference between, because I've said all these that we have seen can be categorized as either primary pollutants or secondary pollutants. Here we have in the primary, when you have the examples, it will help you or it will guide you to form, to understand the difference between primary pollutants and secondary pollutants. So we have the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. These are volatile organic compounds, particles. And here we have sulfur trioxide, nitrogen dioxide, nitric acid, sulfuric, they have ozone, and many others. So look for the difference between the two. How do they differ? So that's how we can categorize the sources of air pollution. So in general, we have primary and secondary. But we said all these can be either natural, they can be mobile, or they can be stationary, as we have mentioned earlier. So let's look at the causes, the main causes of air pollution. Emissions from industries, I think we are just only going into the details a little bit because we have seen this before. Emission from industries and manufacturing activities. When we are looking at the industries and manufacturing activities, the factories. So there is waste incinerators, we have manufacturing industries, we have power plants. These emit high levels of carbon monoxide. So what do we get from these industries that constitutes the air pollution? You have carbon monoxide produced. You have organic compounds, the organic compounds, and chemicals being generated and into the air. It happens almost everywhere that people live. Petroleum refineries also release lots of hydrocarbons into the air. So the hydrocarbons are also different. The methane gas, the ethane, all these ones go into the atmosphere. The carbon monoxide and other organic compounds. So this is an example here, how it is generating. All this smoke contains all those particles. And therefore, all these constitute to emissions from industries and manufacturing activities. Another one is burning fossil fuels. Cars and heavy-duty trucks, trains, shipping vehicles, airplanes all burn lots of fuel, of fossil fuels to work. So they need fuel as a source of energy for them to work. So they burn these fossil fuels. So emissions from automobile engines contain both primary and secondary pollutants. That is a major cause of pollution and one that is very difficult to manage. How do you manage this? As humans rely heavily on vehicles and engines for transporting people, goods, and services, can we manage this? Can we say now that no cars should be moving? Because whenever the car moves, to move from one place to another, there must be oil, there must be fuel to run this car. And this car must burn the fuel. When it burns the fuel that provides the energy to move from one place to another, it produces these substances which are toxic to air. Heavy-duty trucks, trains, shipping vehicles, aeroplanes, can we stop them from moving? There is technology of using electrical ones which do not produce this. But as long as that technology has not come, then we are still polluting our environment because that one cannot be managed in any other way apart from having other sources of energy apart from the fossil fuels. Fumes from car exhaust contain dangerous gases such as carbon monoxide. That is very important to note. Oxides of nitrogen, hydrocarbon, and particulates. On their own, they cause harm to people who breathe them. Because when they get out, you have seen most of the time when the vehicle, these old vehicles, when it bypasses you and produces this smoke, and you breathe it, you feel uncomfortable. That could be even a source of respiratory tract infections or respiratory tract diseases. Additionally, they react with the environmental gases to create more toxic substances, more toxic gases. When they get into the atmosphere, then they cause some reactions to occur. And those substances which are produced as a result are more toxic. That is very important to note. So we look at the household and farming chemicals. Crop dusting, fumigation, fumigating homes. Very many places have been fumigated during the coronavirus to kill the virus. But the chemicals that we use, on the other hand, have got the effects because they remain in the environment. Household cleaning products or painting supplies, over-the-counter insect or pest killers, fertilizer dust emits harmful chemicals into the air and cause pollution. We have mentioned about these fertilizers, the pesticides that can be used, the herbicides, and other sprays. Chlorofluorocarbons. This is the symbol. This is chlorofluorocarbons. From aerosols and refrigerators destroy the ozone layer. The refrigerators that we use at home, the old ones still have these substances. They still have these chlorofluorocarbons as the refrigerating agent, and they tend to leak out in the atmosphere. When they get into the oxygen, or rather in the atmosphere, they destroy the ozone layer. So ozone layer acts as a barrier to the ultraviolet radiations from the sun. It acts as a barrier, you know that. It is a very important layer of the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, sorry. So these ultraviolet radiations, they cause skin cancer, they also damage crops, and so many other effects. So that is very important as well, that to note that these hydrocarbons from the aerosols that we use, the aerosols include these perfumes that we use. You know, the perfumes. Those are part of the aerosols. The refrigerators at home, but I mentioned I want to be precise, the old ones, because I'm sure the country is no longer importing. Those ones cannot be allowed in the country that still have these substances that are used as refrigerants, because they know, the government knows the effects. But there could be some old fridges in our homes there that tend to produce these substances. And if they are there at homes, then these substances are still getting into the atmosphere. And they cause, we said, they destroy the ozone layer. The ozone layer, its purpose is to protect us from these strong ultraviolet rays that may cause skin cancer and have some other damaging effects on humans and plants as well. So what are the common air pollutants around? We have carbon monoxide, we have ground level ozone, we have lead, metal, we have sulfur dioxide, we have particulate matter, we have nitrogen dioxide. These are some common pollutants that is around us. So we need to look at the effects of some of these substances or pollutants that are around us. Carbon monoxide, let's first start with this. Fuel combustion from vehicles and engines, we have already mentioned where it comes from. That is, when there is incomplete combustion in the engine, these gases are produced. Reduces the amount of oxygen reaching the body's organs and tissues. When you inhale the carbon monoxide, the amount of oxygen the body needs will be reduced, because the oxygen combined with hemoglobin in the lungs, so it is transported by hemoglobin to other parts of the body. Now, when you inhale the carbon monoxide, it is carbon monoxide instead of oxygen that will react with hemoglobin, now to form what we call carboxyhemoglobin. And it takes now the hemoglobin doesn't know that it is taking carboxyhemoglobin because it has high affinity for it. And as a result of that, your body will be in deficit of oxygen, which may result in dizziness and eventually even death. This aggravates heart diseases, resulting in chest pain and other symptoms. We are just looking at the effects. Ground level ozone, these are secondary pollutants are formed by the chemical reactions of volatile organic compounds. These are some of the nitrogen oxide compounds in the presence of sunlight. So they combine together. So they decrease lung function and causes respiratory symptoms, such as coughing, shortness of breath. You are breathing, then you don't breathe continuously, and also makes asthma and other lung diseases to get worse. We may not be able to realize these because they are in the environment. But it is very important to take note of them. Then we look at the lead metal. smelters, that is metal refineries and other metal industries, combustion of leaded gasoline in piston engine aircraft, waste incinerators, waste burners, and battery manufacturing. All these may produce some lead particles, metal, into the atmosphere and causes damaging the developing nervous system. It especially affects children, nervous system, resulting in IQ loss and impacts on learning, memory, behavior in children. So it is very important to note, and it is because children are affected. They are affected. What is affected? The nervous system development, and therefore IQ. It impacts on learning, memory, and behavior. All these are but they are all concerned with the nervous system. Cardiovascular and renal effects in adults, and other effects related to anemia. So all these are the effects of lead. Nitrogen dioxide, that is fuel combustion, as we mentioned, electric utilities, big industrial boilers, vehicles, and wood burning, all these produces some of this gas. This worsens lung diseases leading to respiratory symptoms, increased susceptibility to respiratory diseases or respiratory infections. So there is, this susceptibility is the easiness by which your body will resist these respiratory infections. So it is, you can be easily affected when these nitrogen dioxide are being inhaled. So you should take that note. Particulate matter, it is formed through chemical reaction fuel combustion, that is burning coal, wood, diesel, industrial processes, farming, field burning, and paved roads, and during road construction. What is the effect of this? Short-term exposures can worsen heart or lung diseases and cause respiratory problems. Long-term exposures can also cause heart or lung diseases and sometimes premature death. That is in children and even old. Sulfur dioxide comes from fuel combustion as well, electric utilities industries, natural occurrences like volcanoes, aggravates asthma, breathing difficulty, contribute particle formation associated with health, and many others. Nuclear leakage, other pollutants as well will cause that one. Dear students, thank you so much for being there. I hope you've been noting, and this will help you even in another lesson. I hope to see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.